Mr. Hamid, Mr. Adi, and where is Mr. Gerardo? Yes. So for organizing this such a wonderful event, it is a great pleasure for me to be here and talk about God. So you might have asked yourself before, does God exist? Or if so, what are the God's characteristics and attributes? So, and many, many, many more questions throughout our life. I want to talk a little bit about this question. I would like to start my presentation with the story of Moses and a shepherd. So, the story starts when shepherd talks to God. Shepherd says, "Where are you? I would like to come and serve you food. I would like to kiss your hand. I want to clean your room. I want to provide food for you." So, and so on. Moses hears, this conversation. He became somehow angry. He comes and says, "Shepherd, stop talking that way. Do you know to whom are you talking? It's God, the creator of the world, and it seems you lost your face." This is the situation. So the point is two different, perspectives about God. On one hand, we have shepherd God who has human characteristics, and it's anthropomorphic God. And on the other hand, we have a transcendent God who is beyond our experience, who is supernatural. So the story continues. Now God says, Moses, this wasn't your mission. You are there to actually make union, not separate human being from myself. And God continues. He says, love is beyond all faiths and religions. And for those who love God, everything and religion is God. Just imagine the situation. What happened next, actually, so definitely just imagine yourself in this situation. Shepherd got somehow, sad. He regrets from what he said earlier, and he just, left Moses. And the story continues, but I want to, make my point from this story. And as I told you, different perspectives about God. And I want to, consider even bigger context, from non-believers to the religious, from those who see God as a king who creates world one day and right now does nothing, to those actually believe that God hears and answers, their prayers. So these are different, beliefs and ideas. What are your beliefs? Did you think about that? I think it's really worth thinking. As you see, you have in your daily life, you have different questions, and you are thinking about many different things. For example, I'm talking about decision making here. My meaning is not ethical dilemma. So decision making could be simple things. For example, you might ask yourself before coming here, should I go to this presentation? You think about these kind of questions. But to be fair, sometimes we are not willing to think about God, which is really important concept in our life. So if we start to thinking about God, definitely at the beginning, confusing situation, many ideas, many beliefs. But if we commit ourselves to think about God, both from our heart and our rational reasoning, I see and I believe that we will be surprised. But at the same time, this is very important, we must be open to change our ideas. We must be, there is no absolute correct thing at any single point. Talking about thinking and questions about God. So the most important question would be, does God exist? And these are, classical argument for God existence. Just want to review very quickly. So in cosmological argument, you're looking at world. One version is cause and effect, cause and effect. So you see an effect, you back to find cause, again back to find cause. So all these things in affairs have potentiality to change. But there is only one thing we call uncaused cause that is pure actuality. And to be actually, to have this set of affairs, we must eventually have that uncaused cause. This is rational. This is strong. The second one is theological. In the theological argument, we are looking at design object. For example, human. We find complexity. We find beauty. We think, oh, wait a minute. Here it should be a strong designer, a wonderful designer. Simple. In the third one, ontological, somehow different with first two, here we start looking at God, not looking at the universe. And we say, if I understand what God is, for example, the greatest being that you cannot thought, if I understand what God is, I can, through conclusion that God must exist. I have one point in this list. These are rational arguments. And those who actually propose these arguments, they didn't try to convince us. This is our decision to think about that. But for myself, still something missing. I acknowledge, and I confess the beauty and the power of these arguments, but I think there's still something missing. So I became familiar actually with some segments of Kant's moral argument, and I was fascinated with the way that Kant actually describes morality and moral virtue. He says, when you do something good, so the concept of the goodness, when we see, for example, this is good, for example, you are helping somebody in danger. This is not good because it has benefit for you or because it is wise. It is good because it is based on our moral sense, or we can call sense of duty. So, and Kant says, our goal of doing moral actions at the end is one thing, is perfection. So, and perfection, for you might have happiness at the end during this process, during perfection process. You might have happiness, or you might have sadness or pain. A little bit controversial here. But he says something really beautiful. Kant says, you look for perfection for yourself, but at the same time, look at for happiness for others. Really beautiful. So, but he actually tries, this is one piece of his moral argument, he tries to make connection between morality and the existence of God. Kant says, we have two highest good. One is morality, or moral virtue. The second one is happiness. And you see, you are doing some good things, and you don't see happiness, so it's something missing. Not for myself, from Kant's perspective. Something is missing. Kant says, in order to make sure that happiness is proportionate with our morality, or moral sense of duty, we must have some sort of rewarding system. We must have life after death. We must have new birth. And God is the one who creates and who governs that system. Beautiful idea. So, what Lewis says, Lewis, propose another version of moral argument. Lewis says, C.S. Lewis, he says, when you are asking about the existence of God, this question is completely different with scientific question. In scientific question, you are, for example, you want to look at the effect of temperature on your material in your experiment. So this is external observation. Lewis says external observation, outside observation doesn't work for this kind of question, for asking whether God exists or not. Why? Because the only thing that we know better in universe is ourselves, is the man. So he says, first look at yourself. So instead of outside observation, here we should look at inside information. And he concludes that if you look at inside information, we have one common thing, every human. One common thing. That thing he called law of nature. And law of nature has nothing to do with physics. It's law of good and bad. A standard norm of your behavior. And he says, by your nature, everybody, by your nature, you'd have tendency to do something good. You have tendency, you keep your promise. And this is the law of nature. It's, again, a little bit controversial. So, and he actually concludes, because everyone has these common things, we must have God to command us. We must have God to command us, to guide us, to effect on us, to continue to behave based on that norm. This is Lewis' moral argument. For me, still something is missing. So I don't know, you read Apology by Plato, and he actually in Apology, Plato describes Socrates' speech in his defense, against charges in the city. And what happened actually, the charges is because his belief about God. The city is somehow worried. Worriness doesn't make sense, If you are really, you love God, worriness doesn't make sense anything. But this is not my main point. In this story, there is no argument of moral, there is no argument for existence of God. But this is for myself, you can find connection between Socrates' service to God to the moral argument. So, sorry, I know I'm late. So I need at least 2 minutes. So here, there are two important things I want to say. First, for Socrates, he says, God commands me to service God. I must obey God. Okay? And then he says, if you want to, in my words, if you want to kill me, I'm not going to change my idea. I want to, service God. And how we service God, how we serve God, he tells two important, very important things. Looking inside again and encourage people to go and find truth. And he introduced two ultimate goals, wisdom and virtue. So this is the first point I want to say. The second point, Socrates says, God really cares about you. God really cares about people. I also care about you. My own conclusion from this story is serving God by serving people. So, there's still something missing, and I'm trying to find out. Everyone has similar situation like me. I'm trying to find actually simplicity in complexity. Okay, so this is the title of my presentation at the end. I want to, just say one more thing. Think about this kind of situation. When you see somebody, when you see a couple, they really love each other. Sometimes you are feeling really happy. You enjoy that. When you see mother feeds her child, you really enjoy, you're really happy. When you see somebody helping other person, you feel happy. My question at the end is, where that happiness is coming from? Thank you all.